What is up, everybody? Welcome to this Trainwreck Sports podcast. So we're not here to talk hoops. We're not here to talk wrestling. We're not here to work. We're not here to do anything else. Not here to play school. We're here to talk college football. Jake Micah with my brother, as always, Alex Micah. We missed last week, but we're back for week 10
I'm going to be a little rusty.
That's okay. That's what we're just throwing curveballs at you this year, trying to get you acclimated. And sometimes you just gotta take a week off and come back and see where you're at. You know, I think you'll be ready. I think you're locked in.
Oh, enough. Yeah, we'll get this done. We'll figure it out.
We'll get it done. Yeah, Mo is locked in enough to get the show done. So that's what you can expect today.
Yeah.
Just as always, remember why we're here. It's to honor Cardale Jones. That's really all it is.
I don't know if we're honoring. I guess we are honoring.
I am. I'm honoring him. You don't have to be honoring him.
I mean, he's still an Ohio State quarterback. I don't know.
And a Bills legend.
True. When is he going to be the legend of the game?
And a DC Defenders legend.
I remember after week 1 of that season for the DC Defenders, and there was MVP chance for him, and then he fell apart.
Yeah.
For the rest of the season.
Yeah, not great. That first game was electric though. He was killing.
It was. Was that the COVID year where they had they only played 5 games and then they were done?
I think so.
Yeah.
But
what's Cardale up to now? Where is he?
I think he went back to school. He went back to school. That's
what's he doing now?
Let's look it up. What's Cardale Jones up to? It just says he's a
free
agent.
Is he like an offensive analyst for Ohio State or something?
Current, I don't know what. It doesn't say anything.
What's his LinkedIn?
You think Cardale has a LinkedIn?
He should.
What is Cardale Jones doing now? Okay, ready for this? Well, this was almost a year ago, but the last update from Google is that he signed with the Massachusetts Pirates of the Indoor Football League for the 2023 season.
Okay.
So I don't know how did the Massachusetts Pirates do?
That's a good question. Arena football is coming back in a big way, so maybe that's what he's going to be the star of.
Hey, they went 9-7 last year. All right, 9-7 individual stats. Let's see what our boy Cardale did. Passing. This is great podcast. Oh, he was not on the team by the end of the year, so I don't know what Cardale's doing. He was like, I'm not moving to Massachusetts and playing for these Pirates. But let's get into college football talk. Before we get into the games, we have the biggest story in college football right now. The Jim Harbaugh, Michigan Wolverines sign stealing scandal.
Allegedly.
Allegedly. But Connor Stallions is the man of the hour. There's been alleged photos of him. I mean, it's not alleged that there's been a paper trail of him buying tickets to Big Ten games and games all around the country under his name, giving them to staffers, everything else. The thing that's been blowing up this week has been the picture of potential Connor Stallions on the sidelines at a CMU Michigan State game, which
he is the only person wearing sunglasses for a night game.
Sunglasses on a night game, has a little light shining from the sunglasses. The thing that really got me, though, was the shoes that are clearly Nike shoes that he tried to turn into Adidas shoes because they're an Adidas team. Whoever this man was going great lengths to try to fit in.
He's either a genius or a sociopath.
Well, he's definitely a sociopath. This is a man who wrote the Michigan Manifesto.
The Michigan Manifesto is wild.
If you have a manifesto, I'm a little worried about.
That's true. 500 pages on how we make Michigan great again.
500 pages, and he sent it to Jim. He's like, Jim, I've been working on something. Just wanted you to see this. So yeah, how do you? Before we get into today's breaking news about it, do you care about this? Because I feel like every college football team is trying to cheat, no matter what, and Michigan is just. They're the biggest crime I think Michigan has committed is that they're just stupidly cheating. They're just outright not trying to hide their cheating. They've just been doing it in the open, and finally they're getting caught here. But what do you think?
No, I mean I care about it. I'm trying to find it. I saw like a stat the other day that talked about how the last 2 years since they have proof of trail of what games he was attending or what he or what games he was paying people to attend, that their record is 12, or what would it be well, they went 12, they made the playoff, they went 12-1 that year, so 12-2, and then last year they were 13 or so they're 25-3 the last 2 years. And that's the games that they have dating back, finding this evidence. And then the couple seasons before, it was 21-16 or something like that. So it's obviously benefiting them immensely. It's not just they stole a couple signs. They knew they knew what this signal was or whatever. They were pick up a blitz or whatever, or they knew when to send heavy pressure on the guy. They were obviously benefiting immensely from this sign stealing. If it turns out to be true, they they've completely flipped around. They hadn't made a Big Ten title appearance since Harbaugh had been there. They hadn't beaten Ohio State since he had been there. And now all of a sudden, they're ripping off these ridiculous seasons, making the college football playoff, winning the Big Ten, beating Ohio State. And it just happens to coincide with this Connor Stallions dude stealing signs and all this shit. I just as a fan of football, I don't care. We had Dion who said, just because you can steal signs means you have to execute. Sounds to me Dion is also stealing signs, and he's just trying to get ahead of it a little bit.
Yeah.
I think, just as a football fan, I think it's a bad look.
Well, yeah, the correlation is kind of scary there with what Michigan's be able to do. And there's in the article, The Athletic put out a great article the other day, and it was a lot of anonymous coaches, which is what pissed people off. It's oh, you're not going to stand on it and come out. I was no, why would you do that? If you're living in a glass house, you don't throw stones. All these teams are doing something. If it's not sign stealing, they're doing something that they shouldn't be doing. And so they're not going to bring more attention to themselves. But one of the things that I noticed was we saw Hutchinson and Najabo. Every time we called run or pass, they were sending signals over. And we thought that they just knew what was going on. And clearly they had knowledge of what was going on. Yeah, and so, it's tough to beat a team when they know what play you're going to run every time.
Yeah.
You played Madden against people who are looking at your plays the whole time. It's damn near impossible. Imagine doing that on a college football field against a team who the problem with Michigan has never been the talent level that they've been able to amass at the university too. So this is a team that they don't theoretically shouldn't need to cheat to compete at this kind of level, but have decided to do so. I really think they've been so flippant about it because we know Jim Harbaugh is not long for Michigan at this point.
No,
he's tried to leave for 2 years now.
He's starting to do it, but apparently, even amongst this investigation, Michigan's lawyers are putting forward papers to extend him and make him the highest paid coach in the Big Ten right now.
I think that's bullshit. I call bullshit on that when I saw that the other day because I feel like it's just like it's Michigan covering their asses a little bit because they know Harbaugh is going to leave them high and dry on this. Like, there's no way, like, what is your percentage chance that Jim Harbaugh is Michigan's head coach now next year at this point? I think it's like 3%.
I was gonna say like 10, but 3 might be.
Jim Harbaugh will be the Chicago Bears head coach by this time next year. I truly believe that.
I mean,
I do. You don't think so?
Listen, maybe.
He's a good NFL coach. Went to Super Bowl.
He was a good NFL coach, and it's interesting that he never has gone back to the NFL. So I mean, it'd be
because he's a man who loves his power, and he's definitely gotten that while he's been at Michigan, and now at this point, who knows
also,
if it's worth it for him.
It was obviously he had insane job security because like we mentioned, like he's being Ohio State the last 2 years, but couldn't do it for the previous 7 years.
Yeah,
and he still kept on coming back and getting like new contracts. So obviously, like the boosters were okay with whatever he was doing. Besides that, like usually you look at those guys, it's like if you can't beat your rival, your job isn't safe. But he was just doing enough. Still, they're like, yeah, this is fine. We'll just keep on bringing him back. And then now that he's actually like beaten him twice, made the playoff twice, he's locked in. That like he has like insane tenure there now. And the only thing that basically could remove him, it seems like, is if like the NCAA has to step in. But the NCAA, they're very slow with this investigation process because I think they don't want it to have any effect on like this season, no matter what. Or like even if they do, it's only going to be like a couple of game suspension for him and no effect on the players, which I think is bullshit because it doesn't matter. Like this is for any team. If it came out that James Franklin was hiring someone to steal signs and they've been doing it the last couple of years, first of all, I'd be like, well, how come they're not winning the big games? But I would want punishment on him and the players too, because the players are benefiting from just as much. Maybe they didn't start it, but they're not stopping it.
It's true, 100%. So that's all. Oh wait, well no, that's not.
Well, now there's the new wrinkle.
The new wrinkle. I'll let you drop the bomb here earlier from On3 that their sources reported.
Yeah, On3 put out that their sources told them that the reason that there's been the media leaks and that the initial investigation began was from these private investigators that have ties to Ohio State head coach Ryan Day's family. That his two brothers supposedly hired Timothy Day and Christopher Day hired these private investigators, and that they possibly might have illegally obtained the information off of Stallion's computer in order to do so. But just you gotta love how this is just
how is it illegal?
Because I think it's that they obtained they got the information off the computer illegally. They must have hacked into his computer. That's how they found.
They hacked him.
Supposedly, I don't know. Don't you love college football though? That it's just like the biggest rival is like we're hiring private investigators to investigate your sign stealing.
All I'm saying, we are what 3 Saturdays away from Ohio State, Michigan.
It's something. And, from a Big Ten perspective, because people are like, oh, what's the Big Ten gonna do about this? How about this? Everything that Ohio State and Michigan did this year doesn't matter. Their seasons are forfeited. Penn State is in the top of the Big Ten East. I think that's what should happen.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's. I don't know if that's the.
They're both doing shady stuff. It's.
I'm okay with Brian. I'm okay with the private investigators. Ryan Day got Jessica Jones on the case. That's fine by me. Listen, if you're a good PI, sometimes you got to get your hands dirty. Sometimes you got to hack into Stallion's computer.
Like that's like the On3 the Wolverine. That's their thing or whatever. Is talking about. Oh, they obtained this illegally. It's like, well, it's not a criminal court. Like, it doesn't matter if it's illegally obtained.
I'm pretty sure private do a lot of things illegally, and then they bring it up, and they're like, listen, this person did the stuff way worse, though, so let's get them in trouble. Like, that's usually how PIs work. The reason you go to a PI is because the law doesn't want to help you investigate. Yeah. So you need somebody else.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's a little bit of a gray area there, but, man, what a time. What a time in college football.
Gotta love it.
I really don't think Harbaugh's going to be there after this year, and that's part of this whole thing too.
Probably not.
And maybe like he's just like fuck it, whatever. Stallions is about to take over anyways, so
I don't think that kid's gonna. I don't think that guy's taking.
But wouldn't that be great if Jim Harbaugh leaves for the Bears, and then Michigan's like, we're hiring Connor Stallions as our head coach next year. I don't think that's his name either. I feel like he has a different name. Like this is like a pseudonym. I really don't, because it just doesn't seem real. Connor Stallion sounds like a fake name that you would make up. I want to know what his real name could be.
I mean,
I just don't believe anything about this man at this point. I never imagined that we'd be sitting here talking about some coach going to every football game, stealing signs. And that means he was away from Michigan games. Like this man was willing to not watch Michigan games to go steal signs for Michigan.
Because he was doing it
for
the manifesto and his belief. Well, that's also partially why he paid all these people.
That's true. Yeah, he was transferring tickets over.
He's like, I gotta watch the Wolverines, guys, but I need you at this game. And I'm just looking now. 3 hours ago from Sports Illustrated, report: Purdue has video of Michigan operatives filming from the stands.
Yep.
Who does Michigan play this week? Purdue. So it's
Spygate all over again. It's even worse than Spygate, honestly. It's worse than Spygate. Spygate was like one practice.
Yeah.
Or a couple practices.
Yeah.
This is like every game for a couple years and multiple and across the Big Ten and other conferences too.
It's bad. Like obviously the NCAA is kind of like ineffectual in a lot of things, but they need to do something, and it's going to be like the case of like, what's the Big Ten going to do? Are they, if it's undefeated Michigan, are they not going to let them in the Big Ten championship? Yeah, because they probably shouldn't be there. What a time!
But they might not be the team in the Big Ten championship because the number one team in the nation is the Ohio State University. We talked about it. I was thinking that they were going to be number one this week. You thought Georgia would stay. I think Georgia jumps back up if they get a couple wins in the next couple weeks. The main reason Ohio State is number one is because of the wins over Notre Dame and Penn State. And conveniently, they snuck Notre Dame in at 14 and put Penn State at 11. So they're like 2 top 15 wins for Ohio State.
I think Notre Dame's 15.
Are they just 15?
Yeah, they're just 15.
Okay, yeah. So snuck them in there to give Ohio State the 2 top 15 wins to put them in this spot. A little bit of controversy to start the college football playoff, but it really doesn't matter at this point. There's still a lot of games to be played, obviously, but Ohio State travels to Rutgers. Rutgers is having a good year, as we talked about a little bit before. They're 6-2.
Rutgers. I mean, they still have a tough stretch. Like they still play Ohio State. They still play Penn State.
They lost at Michigan 31-7, but we can't. Who knows? I mean, maybe Michigan knew every single one of their plays going on.
Schiano is an offensive mastermind, so they must have been stealing something.
And their other loss was at Wisconsin 24-13. So a pretty good battle there. So they host the Buckeyes. It's a noon start on CBS. The last matchup last year, the Buckeyes won 49-10. I'm expecting a similar result. I don't think that this Rutgers team is going to be. Here's the thing about Ohio State at this point is they have Marvin Harrison Jr. and you don't. And that's really what it comes down to offensively. Yeah. And the defense has been dominant all year long.
Yeah, it is. I mean, we've seen them play like a couple of Big Ten teams like fairly close. But Rutgers defense just isn't on par. Look at the Penn State Ohio State game. It was 20-12. Their team isn't on par with what their defense isn't on par what Penn State's is. So 18.5 is probably fair. I don't know if they're gonna. It's not last year, a 39-point blowout. I don't think that'll happen again. But it could be 28-7. They'll cover and then they'll beat them. But we're looking at them at number one is just such a problem with the college football playoff. At this time last year, Tennessee was number one, and then they got embarrassed by Georgia. So it doesn't matter. And my thing, it's they have 2 wins over top 15 teams. If you're putting that much stock into, and we'll get into this a little later, putting this much stock into Penn State as a top 15 team, you have them at 11. And their only loss is the number 1 team in the country. But you have them below, the rankings just don't make sense because you have them below Oklahoma at 9, whose loss is to, at the time, an unranked Kansas team, who you now have in the playoff, in contention.
Yeah.
But then you have Oklahoma, who is below Texas, who they beat. It doesn't make any sense.
The Oklahoma-Texas thing makes no sense to me, really, at all.
It really doesn't.
Why is Oklahoma getting disregarded for the loss against Kansas when we think Kansas is this pretty good team and they lost by 2 points. It's not like they got blown out.
No, and but that's the thing. It's like you beat Texas. Why do you get put behind Texas when you're the same, like head to head, you have the better record? And obviously I love Texas, but like it just doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't make any sense.
Like,
that was the most.
The playoff really just doesn't make any sense the way they're doing any of the rankings, and they're never going to divulge any like the reasoning behind anything either. It's like, well, we go into a lot of factors. What are your factors besides you want to create controversy and it's just money?
Yeah, that's the only reason I think Texas is ahead of Oklahoma right now is they just needed some controversy, and last week Oklahoma's coming off a loss.
Yeah, and that's no disrespect to Kansas either. They're a good team.
Yeah,
they're 6-2 this year. They were good last year too. It's just
Okay, so the Buckeyes going to beat Rutgers, or are Rutgers going to
win? No, the Buckeyes are going to beat them.
Yeah, I don't think we got to worry about this one, but it will be interesting. I will be watching at noon to see if Rutgers can keep it close and sleepy Piscataway at noon, because who knows? It could be a tough, tricky game, at least for the Buckeyes, the way Rutgers has played this year. We'll go to one of the bigger matchups of the weekend. Missouri, number 12. Their only loss this year is home to LSU in a 49-39 shootout. But they're 7-1, one of their best years they've had. And last year they beat Georgia, kept it close against Georgia.
They didn't beat Georgia. No, Georgia
won that game was, that's right. But that game was like down to the wire. I can't remember what the score was. I think Georgia's undefeated. Yeah, I forgot Georgia's been on their crazy run. But Mizzou
Georgia hasn't lost the game. What is it? They're 16. What's their record right now? They are 24 straight wins right now.
Yeah. But Mizzou pushed Georgia last year in Columbia. This year they come to Georgia. Obviously, it's one of the best years they've had since being in the Big 12. Do you think that Missouri has a shot here? I know you're looking up the thing right now.
Played Missouri. Oh, they did. It was 26-22.
Yeah. Okay.
And it was at Mizzou, 26-22. So yeah, very, very close.
I wrote Mizzou Rutgers on my piece of paper here. That's where my brain's at right now.
Mizzou's been good. Brady Cook's been a good quarterback.
He's doing everything, man. He's running, he's throwing, he is all over the place.
They've surprised a lot of people this year. I watched a couple of their games. The big game I watched was earlier this year when they beat Kansas State. And Kansas State was ranked 15 and they upset them. That was what put them into the rankings for the first time. And like you said, they lost to a really high-powered LSU team. And it was in a shootout. I mean, they put up almost 40 points still, but it's just it's tough to compete a team that's not averaging 49 points a game still.
Yeah.
I think they'll keep it close. 15.5 seems a little big. I think it's only going to be like a one-score game, honestly. I mean, I know it's at Georgia, so that it gives a little bit of a boost, but Georgia at times this year hasn't looked great. They've kind of settled in, and you wrote about Carson Beck has settled in.
Yeah.
But I still just think that they haven't and that's maybe why they're ranked 2 and not 1. They haven't just looked worlds apart from other teams.
Yeah.
They've got a lot of close games. They've a couple of these SEC games they've taken care of business, but they handled Florida pretty good, and Kentucky, but Auburn struggled against them. South Carolina struggled against them. So I wouldn't be surprised if Missouri comes out firing out the gate, same way Florida did. They went down right the field and scored a touchdown, and then just trick turnovers. If they can keep the ball, and keep it clean, I wouldn't be surprised if they keep the game until the 4th.
I'm with you. I think this is going to be a close game, and it's just the way Georgia's played teams this year. They're not in a position to really blow teams out, and especially without Bowers, I don't think that they're going to be able to blow this game open. But I've been really impressed by Beck the last couple weeks. I mean, he's just shown – he just looks like he looks more comfortable, showed more poise, and that's really the key for this game is if he can continue to kind of keep up with that and match Brady Cook, because I think Cook's going to be able to – make some plays here against this Georgia defense, because there have been quarterbacks making plays against this Georgia defense at times this year. But I still got the Bulldogs. They have this 3-week stretch here, and what we talked about Ohio State with their 2 top 15 wins. Georgia, the next 3 weeks, they have this game home against Missouri. They host Ole Miss next week, and then they go to Tennessee. And so this is their defining stretch. And I think they might slip up in one of these games, but I think this is the least likely of them. Missouri's had a good run so far this year, but the SEC East been pretty weak so far. And I just feel like Georgia not going to slip up in the first one. They know how big this stretch is coming up. I think they come into this game. I think it is close. I think you're right. I think it's a 1-score game going into the fourth. I think I've got it like 31-21. That's what I put earlier. I feel like that's around what it is. 10-point game by the end. But Georgia, even though it's
not,
a close,
so not a one-score game.
1-score game coming down to the end, like
Coming
in
down to
the
the
fourth
end,
quarter, yeah. And then they maybe like they score a touchdown or kick a field goal late on a late drive to extend it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Really, what this battle is for who is going to be SEC's second team for quarterback, because Carson Beck has the second most passing yards. Brady Cook has the third most. Brady Cook has one more passing touchdown to Carson Beck. So that's
Jade Daniels going to be number one. Is that who
I would assume so. I mean, he's the one who's like could be a Heisman finalist.
Well, he's doing it literally. We're talking. I think I read today that he has 95% of LSU's offense this year or something like that, which is just insane. But we'll get to them later on. But yeah. We're both on the Bulldogs. Well, let's get to the Wolverine. We'll talk. We've talked a lot of Michigan on this podcast, so we don't need to talk too much more. But they host Purdue, night game at the Big House. I'm sure that I'm hoping. If I were a U of M student, I would be wearing Collar Stallions gear in the stands the whole time. I'd be wearing the glasses, wearing the polo, whatever you got to do. But I think Michigan runs over Purdue.
Yeah, this is like 31.5 points.
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, and I picked Purdue to try to press Ohio State, and they couldn't move the ball at all.
Yeah, Purdue, they're gonna get destroyed. I'm glad to say that JJ McCarthy is not their current Heisman favorite. It's Michael Penix Jr., deservedly so. I can't stand JJ McCarthy. He's like, I don't know. His completion percentage is high. That's great, because where the defenders are going to be already. It's
helps, right?
Yeah. No, they're just gonna rock Purdue though. Purdue is they lost Aiden O'Connell last year, and they're just very much on a down year. They haven't looked good all season, and this game is not going to do any difference to that.
Aiden O'Connell starting on Sunday. How about that?
Yeah, I can't believe that guy is allowed to start a second NFL game.
Well,
he never should have been allowed to. He never should have been drafted.
Did you watch Jimmy G?
I did. At least you did.
I did.
At least Jimmy has a little bit of pedigree. At least he looked good at times in the NFL. Aiden O'Connell got sacked like 7 times in his first career start. Yeah, 6 of them were Khalil Mack.
Yeah, that's not great.
Aiden O'Connell never should have been allowed to start an NFL game, or let alone get drafted. And now it's absurd. My hatred for him is too much. I don't know why.
You think Sean Clifford should be starting for the Las Vegas Raiders?
Shogun Clifford might start this year. Did you see?
Well, yeah. At this rate, yeah, he's about to start.
He's about to start. We don't have faith. They didn't say we don't have faith in Jordan Love. We're looking at all the options at our quarterback.
And they were talking about it the other day. Like, listen, if you don't believe, you kind of just got to cut bait. If you don't believe in the guy, like, you can't fuck around with it. Yeah, my Jordan Love stock has plummeted.
To be fair, what were the odds that they were going to hit on 3 generational quarterbacks back to back to back?
Pretty low.
Yeah.
Pretty low. And clearly Rodgers was not the most willing mentor on his way.
No, not at all.
Yeah, so maybe Sean Clifford is starting.
Sean Clifford's season, I'm hyped. I'm ready for it.
I think this is your fault. I think you did some weird voodoo magic to love willing Sean Clifford to be a starter in the NFL.
Listen,
I truly do.
Well, it didn't work for when Trace got drafted to the Ravens. And my prediction was Trace is going to take Lamar's starting job, and Lamar Jackson won the MVP that year. So it had to work for one of them.
That's fair. And this is definitely the more likely scenario.
Levis. That's the problem.
Don't even get me started on mayonnaise, man. The pumpkin is he's going to turn into a pumpkin, Mo.
Yeah.
When teams get any bit of film on him, he can't read a defense.
No.
He can't, and he didn't even play that. Like, he did not play great last night.
No,
everybody was so hyped up.
They're highlighting it still.
They're like, "Oh man, he throws such a pretty ball. Look at this. Like, he threw 54%. Like, what are we talking about here? Yeah. His yards per attempt was like 6 or 7 or something like that. Like, it's, anyways.
And the disrespect from Al Michaels, who said, "Oh, him and Joey Porter Jr. played together at Kentucky." No, come on.
I did not hear that. Come on, Al.
That was in the first quarter.
Oh,
he said that.
God. Not great.
No.
Not great. All right, let's get to Florida State at Pitt. Speaking of the Pittsburgh, you think
I told you that I thought Florida State was going to be 3 in the initial rankings. I thought they were going to move up. I thought Michigan was going to be 4. Jordan Travis looks great. He's setting on the Florida State records.
If there's anybody who can, even be in the same vicinity as MHJ, it's Keon Coleman at this point too.
Yeah. Oh yeah, dude's a freak athlete. And Trey Benson. Trey Benson is, he's a top 5 running back in college football right now for sure.
Yeah.
It's just that team is just firing on all cylinders, and they beat LSU early, and then after that they kind of looked like sluggish, and it's like, and LSU was like, oh, are we sure LSU is even a good team? Doesn't matter. LSU's ranked top 15. They've been on pretty much a tear. Who else did LSU lose to this year? I can't even remember.
Florida State.
No, that was Florida State and somebody else. They have 2 losses.
Why am I blanking? I watched the game. I'm getting there.
Yeah, I can't.
To Ole Miss in that fucking crazy game, 55-49.
Yeah, the crazy high scoring game. Yeah. Who Ole Miss is good. They're ranked top 10. So we kind of overlooked them for the beginning of the year, but they've just kind of proven time and time again, hey, we're actually good. We're contenders. We can, we should be in this conversation. And the ACC is pretty wide open for them. A couple weeks ago, Louisville was undefeated. Duke was only 1 loss. UNC was undefeated. Florida State was undefeated. It's like, oh man, it's gonna be tough. Maybe down the stretch, they'll drop a game to one of the 2-loss teams, and then they'll have like an undefeated team in the ACC championship game. They're the only undefeated team in the ACC left, and they look far and away better than everybody else. They're not making the same mistakes that Louisville is making or UNC is making. So I think they're real contenders, and Pitt is really, really bad. They are going to destroy Pitt. Yeah,
they're going to destroy Pitt. Really, the next week is the toughest game. They host Miami in a night game. That's where I think they should smack. They have to go to Florida though, so I think they should beat Florida, but that is going to be a tricky matchup. However, next week, besides that, I think this team's going to cruise and then probably see Louisville in the ACC title game the way we're
is that who's second? Because I know there's no divisions anymore.
They're second right now. This is a huge game this week because Vatek is 3-1 in Conference 2, and Louisville is 4-1.
Brent Pry has Virginia Tech cooking.
They are 4-4 total. But since they got to the ACC play, they've been killing it. They're losing to Purdue and Marshall, not great. But they've handled business since then in the ACC. So yeah, that's a big game on Saturday. But if Louisville wins there, we're looking at collision course with Florida State, Louisville, and that would be a fun ACC title game. So
yeah, it will be.
But yeah, Florida State, they're going to cruise in this one. This is going to be a fun one. The Washington Huskies traveling to the Coliseum to take on the reeling USC Trojans. It's been a rough go for Caleb, man, the last couple weeks. It seems like teams, and I don't think it's on him as much. There are a lot of haters on college football Twitter and everything that just want to roast Caleb and say that he, and roast Lincoln Riley and everything. That line has not helped him, and that defense is such a mess, just like every other Lincoln Riley football team, that they really can't bail him out of any situations. They win against Cal last week, 50-49 after a comeback. But before that, they had lost to Utah, losing only by 2 points, though. And obviously, they got blown out at Notre Dame, which, it was from like the first 5 minutes that Notre Dame was going to control that game.
That game you could say is on Caleb. Caleb had a lot of dumb balls in that one. He had 3 picks.
Oh my gosh, that one pick, it looked like he was staring the dude down in the chest when he threw it to him. He was definitely rattled in that game. But they've had a couple rough weeks, but this is huge game at home. The rest of their schedule too is home. This game home against Washington. They go to Oregon next week. Yeah. And then hosting UCLA for the last game of the season.
Yeah. It's not. And like hosting UCLA, like obviously crosstown rivals. It's how much is blue and gold or blue and yellow is going to be in that stadium.
Yeah.
Is going to be a factor too. But like I put in my prediction. I said for the rest of the season, I think they're going to go 8-4. They're a 7-2 team right now. I think they're going to drop 2 of the next 3. Who are those? I think Washington is one of them. I think Washington's going to go undefeated and win the Pac-12, which is it's not. They don't have an easy stretch either, but
No.
I think it's kind of like
Washington stretch at USC, hosting Utah, which I know Utah. I'm never going to doubt Utah at this point, even though they got smacked by Oregon. I'm still not going to doubt them. But at Oregon State, home to Washington State, those are the two games that kind of scare me because you face these two teams that are about to leave the Pac-12 on their way out, or not about to not be in. Well, they're going to be the only members in the Pac-12, I guess, before Washington leaves the Pac-12. And I feel like Oregon State and Washington State, those 2 weeks against Oregon and Washington are going to be super motivated. And you know how those games can be. So I'm a little worried about one of those two games. But this team is just on paper. I think I think they've been the best team in college football all year long. And the only reason they're not getting this respect is because they're in the Pac-12 and they barely beat Oregon. Fucking people were still putting Oregon over Washington in their rankings this week, which drives me nuts. And it drives me. I think it was Desmond Howard who always has a ridiculous ranking, but he had Oregon in his playoff over Washington going into it too. And it's the same thing we were talking about earlier with why is Texas ahead of Oklahoma. Like, I don't care that Washington and Oregon came down to a field goal, and you can still end if you want to say that you think Oregon's
a field goal to send it to overtime too. So not necessarily that they were even going to win the game on that missed field goal. It's Oregon's defense is legit, and I don't want to get too much.
The trenches, man. The Oregon just dominates in the trenches. Yeah, that's really like they are.
And Bo Nix is playing the best football of his 7-year career.
Yes,
which you would hope out of a 25-year-old. That he'd be playing good.
Broadway Bo.
It's. That's the thing, or in the way that Oregon, Oregon's defense is elite, and it's it's great. It's we were talking about USC's defense is terrible. Yeah. And that's what I see happening is that Washington's defense is good enough that they're going to shut down Caleb Williams a few times, but USC's defense is not going to be able to shut down Michael Penix.
The over-under is
probably throw for 400 yards on that.
The over-under is 77.5 points for this game.
Is it really?
Yes. I feel like it's going to be 58 to 42.
I don't think that USC is going to be able to put up 42, honestly. Though.
I think they can.
I know they can. I just think that Washington's defense is better than that, though.
That's true.
I could maybe what was the?
This is SC's season, though. You have to think about the desperation level from SC. I think their
season's already done, though.
It isn't. If they beat Washington and beat Oregon the next 2 weeks, they're back
in the Pac-12 right now.
Yeah,
they are second in the Pac-12.
They're going to be coming into this game. I know you hate this term, the team Super Bowl, but this is their most desperate game. This is going to be the kitchen sink game this week against Washington.
Yeah. Well,
huge Big Ten matchup.
It is next year. Do they play each other next year too? They might.
Yeah, the Pac-12 team, moving teams all play each other next year in the Big Ten.
Okay. Penn State plays both these teams next year. I know that. They're at USC
early on.
And then
it's going to be the whiteout. It's November. It's this weekend. Penn State, Washington next year at Penn State. That's going to be the whiteout game, I think.
Well, did you see that you're probably right. It probably is the whiteout. Did you see their stretch of games after USC?
Penn State stretch has they got USC Wisconsin.
It's
Ohio
after
State
USC. They have
Washington.
A week off after going out to the West Coast, and they have a week off, so that's nice. Yeah. Then it is
it's at Wisconsin, right?
Yes, at Wisconsin, home against Ohio State, home against Washington. That's
the Big Ten now, baby.
Yeah,
that's it.
Which Penn State, for the first time in 8 years, opens their Big Ten season at home. So good for them.
I think that was part of their punishment. I think that the Big Ten was just doing that every year just to needle them a little bit. But yeah, what do you think about this game before we move on to Oregon?
I think Washington wins. I think the spread is Washington. They're 3-point faves. I think they win
49 to 31.
I'll go 42 to 20.
Okay.
42, which is crazy. It's they're only 3-point favorites, but I think that I think just that their defense isn't amazing, but it's good enough that it's going to slow down Caleb Williams and USC, and then their offense is so good that it's just going to they're just going to run circles around USC.
I don't think USC.
Rome Dunes is a disgusting wide receiver.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I don't think that USC is gonna be able to stop Washington, but I'm gonna give more credit to desperate Caleb Williams and Lincoln Riley to put up a bunch of points in the Coliseum. I just don't think they can keep up.
Is this Michael Penix's Heisman game? Because I mean, he's obviously like right now he's the front runner, but
he's had a couple rough weeks.
Game.
But he's had a couple rough weeks too. So this might need to be the
since
moment.
the Oregon game, he's been dealing with a rib injury.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Remember, I don't even know how he finished that Oregon game.
That's the like, and which I talked about too. He's very injury prone. He like tore I think he tore his Achilles and then he tore his ACL at Indiana. He had 2 season-ending injuries before.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's always tough, but I think they win big. I think it's going to be like 42-20.
All right. Well, what about? We don't need to talk much about this game. I think Oregon's going to destroy Cal, but Cal put up a good showing against USC last week. I don't think they can score against Oregon.
No, it's the same thing. It's like they just had. It's because USC's defense is so bad. Oregon is 24.5-point favorites.
Do you know that Dan Lanning is now, if you go to betting sites, wherever you can find this, as who is the next Alabama coach after Nick Saban? Dan Lanning is the guy that is.
He is a former. I was looking at this the other day for all the list of Saban disciples that are out there in college football right now, and he is one. He is one of them. One of the 22 people that Saban had on his staff at some point.
Yeah. He would fit the bill, that's for sure. He's putting up a hell of a resume.
The SEC and piss him off the same way Kiffin did.
It's true.
Kiffin going to Ole Miss, I think pissed. And
there was all the talk about Dabo before, but Dabo is losing the plot, I think, a little bit.
Dabo, just put all his eggs in a basket called Cade Klubnik, and he's fucking terrible. That's
Dabo won't do NIL. That's his problem.
No.
Dabo's like, I'm not doing NIL. Okay, enjoy your 500 season, bro.
Yeah.
Like
my NIL is God. Didn't he say that at some point?
Yeah, he did. I can't remember.
My name, image, and likeness is God.
Is in God. Yeah, that's what it was. He just built a cult. That's all Dabo did.
Which most college football teams are cults.
That's fair. Yeah, you're right.
But he's just more vocal about it than a lot of coaches.
He is. He really is. I think that's why he rubs people the wrong way sometimes. So we got Oregon. Do we need to talk about this game more? Because we got a couple good ones coming up.
No. Oregon wins handily, 21 points probably.
Kansas State at Texas. I'm a little worried about this game, Mo. I'm not gonna lie.
Oh, I mean, yeah, for sure, and especially because no Quinn Ewers. Second week with Malik Murphy.
Malik was good last week, though.
He
wasn't perfect.
Some decisions.
Yeah, it wasn't perfect, but he was good.
They left points on the board. He had a fumble. He had a fumble in the red zone, which it was on the first or second and goal. So they would have at least got a field goal out of it. And there was 2 different times on 4th and goal that they didn't get it. They went for it and didn't get it. And they still won pretty handily against BYU. This game, it's good for Texas that it's at home. Yeah. I think if he had to go to Little Apple, that it would be tough, especially because his first road start, that would be rough against a ranked team. I don't know. It's going to be close. It's going to come down to the wire. That's why the spread is only like 6. Is it even 6? Maybe 3. Let me look what I wrote down. It's 3.5. It's going to come down to. It's going to be a 1-score game.
Vegas knows this game is going to be tight.
I expect it's going to be sloppy. Because he's not polished at all as a quarterback. He's got great size and athleticism, and he's got a great arm. But I mean, look at his mechanics. His the way he throws is interesting. Is he
it does look weird.
Even when he sets because he's so tall, he crouches down a lot after he gets the ball. He needs to get on a lower level to be with the receiver.
And then he explodes out of to throw.
Yeah.
It's a weird it's a weird visual.
He's huge. He's 6'6".
Yeah.
Kansas State's a good team. I mean, they won the Big 12 last year.
Yeah. It's going to be an interesting game. I think Texas gets by. I think they're still good enough to win this game, but I think it comes down to I think it's 21-20. I really think it's going to be a 24-21, that type of
something close.
Not high scoring at all. It's going to be a middle, maybe first team to 20, first team to 25 type deal here. I think.
I agree with that. Xavier Worthy though last week finally took one to the house. That was awesome.
Thank God, man.
He'd been having great punt returns all year, and last week ripped off a 74-yarder. That was nice.
Well, I had been betting on him anytime touchdown early on in the year, and it was just not doing anything.
No, it's because then I think it's Adonai or Adonai. I can't remember. Adonai Mitchell. He's got 7 touchdowns this year.
Yeah, it's crazy.
He had in 2 seasons at Georgia. He had 7 total. He's got 7 this year with Texas. It's wild.
But the Longhorns, like we were talking about here, they're even with that loss to Oklahoma, poised. If they finish up, this is really their toughest game left on the schedule. If they get through clean here with one loss, going to a potential Big 12 championship against Oklahoma again, everything is in front of them. If they win the Big 12 championship with one loss, they're going to be a playoff team.
Yeah,
so they don't have anything to worry about. I don't know why they're ranked ahead of Oklahoma this week. It doesn't make any sense to me, really. It makes sense to put them above Bama, and maybe they didn't want to put Oklahoma ahead of Bama, and so they were like, well, let's just put Oklahoma down.
I guess.
It's a weird dance, I guess, here, but I would have just had Bama 9 and Oklahoma 7. And
Texas 8.
And Texas 8. That would have made the more sense to me. But the committee, like we said, they got to throw some wrinkles in, make these playoff rankings interesting from week to week. And this seems like the wrinkle they wanted to throw in. Say
it's all arbitrary. Back. It's all whatever they.
It doesn't matter until the end of the year.
No,
it does not matter. Like I watched the show, I locked in, waiting for the release, and I'm like, okay, these don't really matter at all. But it's all fun. It's all good to see, create some arguments for the week. I'm sure Oklahoma fans are pissed about being behind Texas.
Material, you know?
Yeah, exactly. But
selling tickets to a game in Atlanta, it's just bulletin board material apparently.
Nah, don't give me that. I'm still I went on a rant last night on Pay the Bills because I was like, how are you gonna like, I understand if you're a football player, you gotta build motivation, but how are you gonna get mad at logistics?
Yeah,
it does not make sense. And now the Ja'Marr Chase this is the thing though that people need to understand. Ja'Marr Chase just talks shit every week. Bills fans are only paying attention to it when he talks shit about the Bills. There's a quote from Ja'Marr Chase every week about the team that he's playing. Like, that's just what Ja'Marr does.
He was talking shit about Joe Burrow earlier this year.
Yeah.
He's like, I'm always fucking open. He's like,
that's just what he does. Speaking of Joe Burrow and Ja'Marr Chase, the LSU Tigers traveling to number 8 Alabama in what's been the game of the year, or like the most anticipated game of the year for basically 12 years now. I mean, 2011 was when they played in the national title and were played against each other 1 and 2 in the 9-6 classic that I vividly remember us watching together, waiting all day for that game to just watch all the field goals that we saw.
And then wasn't the national title game like 14-0?
16-0.
16, yeah.
Yeah. Don't think that's going to be the case on Saturday.
No.
There's going to be some fireworks here. And as we talked about, Jayden Daniels, man, he is accounted for 95% of LSU's offense. He is definitely a Heisman candidate. I would say Penix is obviously the favorite, but Daniels has been fucking outstanding this year. I'm just going to get up his stats right now. Passing the ball, he already has 2,500 yards passing and 25 touchdowns in 8 games. And then on the ground, the man is the second leading rusher with 521 yards and 5 touchdowns. Their leading rusher has 611 yards. And he's rushed the ball 91 times. So he's getting volume out of this dude. Daniels is the engine that makes this team go. This is the biggest game of his career, life, all that, at Bama, facing a Bama team who, this is a 7-1 Bama team. We know they lost to Texas early on in the year. They've ran the table since then, but it hasn't been impressive. At South Florida, 17-3. We know that game was fucking terrible with the hurricane.
Didn't start that game,
and it got delayed. The weather was crazy, everything. But then they beat Ole Miss by 14. That was a solid win.
That was a big win because a lot of people thought. I mean, I thought Ole Miss was going to do it that year.
At Mississippi State. Mississippi State's not good. But then the last 3 weeks at Texas A&M, that was a close game. 26-20 came down to the wire. They had a scare against Arkansas, only a 3-point win. They win by two touchdowns against Tennessee, but that was a pretty close game, like throughout the whole. I think 2 touchdowns is a little bit of they came out hot in the third quarter and everything, but it was still a more competitive game than people want to give them credit for.
It was. I mean, the final score.
I think it was 24-20 going into the fourth quarter.
The final score didn't reflect how the game had been played.
Yeah, so this is not a team this is not your typical Alabama team. That being said, at home, night game, Tuscaloosa, it's hard for me to think that this LSU team, who has slipped up in a couple spots this year, can go in and get this job done. But the SEC West is basically on the line, and if Jayden Daniels might be the best player on the field, so
yeah, I think he definitely is the best player on the field. It's gonna be great. I mean, like, I think I mean not pure talent wise, or like I don't think LSU's gonna go on to win the national championship even if they win this game.
Yeah.
But I think we could have like a rehash of the 2019 game where it was 46-41 and it was just, elite offense, no defense at all, just guys going out there and slinging it and putting on a show. I think that's what we're gonna get. Is really it's like if you enjoy defense, this is not the game for you. That's what I think is gonna happen with this. We're talking about Jayden Daniels is fourth in college football right now for passing yards. He's top of the SEC. You went over his numbers. He is playing at an insane level. And no matter we kind of saw it already. Like Texas wasn't like having like elite playmakers go out and like blowing at them out, and they still put up how many points on Bama. Yeah. And now you have an elite playmaker who's going out there to do that in a rivalry game. It's gonna be insane. I think LSU's gonna win.
I think so. I think so too. I think push comes to shove. I'm just picking the better quarterback in this scenario. And I don't trust Jalen Milroe in a big scenario. And I do trust Jayden Daniels. I don't trust Brian Kelly though against Nick Saban.
No.
That's what I'm a little worried about.
But I mean, I know last year it was in Death Valley and it goes down to double overtime.
Yeah.
So it's either way over.
It was double overtime. It was a weird play at the end. Yeah. It was
2-point conversion. So it's like they can do it. He's done it before.
Yeah.
That hasn't in Tuscaloosa, but it doesn't mean it can't be done.
It's gonna be a blast tomorrow night. I will not be watching. I will be watching jousting at this time at medieval times, but I'll be trying to pay attention.
I didn't think I had hockey. I have hockey, so I'll be able to watch at least the first half. But
that's okay.
Maybe I'll watch some on the bench.
The Tua. It's funny you mentioned that. The Tua Joe Burrow duel I was watching on my laptop while calling a Kent State club hockey game. I was commentating and watching LSU Bama as the game was ending. It was electric.
That game, that was, I mentioned earlier, I said Michael Penix needs his Heisman game. That was Joe Burrow's Heisman game. One of them, at least. He had a few.
Yeah. He did have, he had a few.
Honestly, he had a few, but that was one of them.
All right, let's get into it. We got 3 games left here to get into. This is the last Bedlam on the schedule. Sad times. Hopefully these schools figure it out and get back together again. But we gain Texas A&M next year. We lose Oklahoma State. Honestly, that's fine because Oklahoma fucking destroyed this rivalry. Someone said, I think it was Jason Kirk who put the tweet out. He's like, hopefully we can give Bedlam to a rivalry that's actually even now after this because Oklahoma.
Yeah, I didn't realize how lopsided it was.
It's terrible, man.
It's really bad.
And it's been recent years. Oklahoma
stuff up. I'm like, wow.
Oklahoma State in recent years, obviously they've had some big wins and they've had a pretty good squad. But yeah, Oklahoma historically has just dominated this rivalry.
Yeah, they have. I mean, going back to that first meeting, which I wrote about, in that somehow the ball rolls down a hill and is still in play.
Yeah, what?
There's a reason they talk about like pre-1930, like 1933 or 36 national champions and stuff like that. They're like, do they really count? Nah, that football, I don't know what was going on. The ref was
that's how God intended football to be, Mo. That's how we don't need these passes. You're talking about 46-41. That's an atrocity. That's Satan football.
Yeah,
God football is the ball rolling down the hill.
And they jumped into a frozen creek to recover it. And you like, oh, they got the touchdown. They won 75-0. Like, do they need that touchdown?
Do you think that Oklahoma State can win this game though?
What did I write? I gotta remember what I wrote.
Mo's gotta remember what his takes are.
I want to say I said I picked them to win because I think why not?
I think you did.
Said Oklahoma State pulls off the upset. It's only 6 points.
Yeah.
In Stillwater, they beat them 2 years ago in Stillwater. I think so. I think it's gonna be like Oklahoma State is gonna kind of play with like we talked about with a chip on their shoulder. Oklahoma's leaving the SEC. They're ending this rivalry. And Oklahoma State and Oklahoma, like both their athletic directors, when this first got announced that they were leaving, was like, "Oh, Bedlam's probably going to be done. The other one doesn't want to work with us." Mm-hmm. Oklahoma State hasn't been bad this year. They have a weird loss to South Alabama.
Yeah.
But I think they're going to show out. Their running back popped up on the Heisman watch. Far odds, but it popped up on the bottom of the thing. I was like, who is Ollie Gordon the second?
Nah, the Ollie Gordon highlight reel is crazy.
He is good. Yeah, he is very, very good. And he's been great against the Big 12. He's averaging 8 yards a carry against the Big 12.
He has 1,087 yards in 8 games right now. He's 10 touchdowns. He's averaging 135 yards a game. That's crazy.
Yeah. He's special. He's gonna go out. He's gonna ball out, and I think that's the thing. It's gonna be a close game. Oklahoma State is gonna be like, "Fuck you guys! You guys are leaving the SEC. We don't care the rivals any. We're gonna get one more win in before you guys are gone, and we're gonna make it 91-20 in the series because it's 91-19."
Yeah, I think Oklahoma State wins this game too. I think that Oklahoma, they had the win. They had that win over Texas, but if you watch that, like Texas killed themselves in that game so many times, and it still came down to the last drive of the game.
Yeah,
for Oklahoma to get that out. Texas scored too quick, but Texas really should have. Texas shot themselves in the foot, especially in that first half against Oklahoma. I don't think that Oklahoma's in. I think that's why Oklahoma's number 9. Like, it's annoying to see because I'm more of just, if you beat the team, you should be ahead of them regardless. But I think there is something to the fact that Oklahoma is a level below Texas and Alabama. I don't think that they're on these teams' level of the top 8 right now. No. And I think that they're getting carried, their resume is getting carried by that win over Texas. But that Texas game, I think it was a little fool's gold. And it's always a crazy game in the Cotton Bowl and everything else.
I think it was. And it's because, it's like, they talk about it's like, oh, Dylan Gabriel writing his, name into the lore of the rivalry. And it's like, yeah, but that's like the best game of his career.
Yep.
You mentioned it. I don't like this phrase, but that was like his Super Bowl. Yeah. Honestly, that was the biggest game of his career he's ever played up to that point, and he went out and showed out. And last week he laid a duck against Kansas.
Yeah, and this environment is going to be fucking nuts. It's going to be awesome to see it.
They're lucky it's not a 7:30 game. It's 3:30. They're lucky it's 3:30.
I'm assuming it's not a night game because they just wanted to avoid LSU Bama
and Washington USC.
Oh, Washington USC is the ABC night game.
That's the 7:30. I guess Herbie. First, I wanted to say it. Shout out to Herb Street because he is flying from Alabama to LA tomorrow.
So he went from Pittsburgh to Tuscaloosa.
Yes.
To LA.
Yeah.
Back to I think he lives in Cincinnati. Yeah.
Or Louisville, wherever he is, around there. Right, same thing.
Somewhere right there.
But
I told my girlfriend Hannah about his schedule one time. She was not impressed. She didn't care. She's like, okay. No respect for Herbie.
No.
She says hi, by the way.
That's okay.
She did not care about Herbie's schedule. So some people aren't impressed.
Hardest working man in college football right now.
He really is. Well, he's got
from Alabama to LA.
He's on some private jets though, so it's not like he's just watching games. But all right, we got 2 games left. Let's wrap it up here. A&M at Ole Miss. Mo, I think A&M's going to pull this off. I really think Ole Miss. I think it's going to be a look-ahead game. Ole Miss has been in these scenarios before where you think that they're right on the cusp of, potentially doing something great and having a letdown. I think this is a letdown. I think that's just Lane Kiffin, man. I think I don't think he can lock into these things, and he's proven it over and over again. And A&M plays these games. They've played a lot. Like they're obviously they're not ranked right now. They're not, that impressive this year. It's only a 3-point spread though at home for Ole Miss in this game. Yeah. And A&M, they lost to Tennessee by 7 points. That was a good game. They lost to Bama by 6 points. That was a good game. And they lost to Miami that first couple weeks, got, ran out of the building. But they've been a pretty solid team all year long. I'm picking A&M. I don't want it to happen because I want Ole Miss to go into Georgia and have a huge top 10 matchup next week in the Hedges. But I'm picking A&M. I don't know what it is. There's nothing like I don't have a breakdown of it, but I don't really particularly believe in Jimbo or who's playing quarterback. Is Max Johnson back in now? I think he is. I just don't there's nothing about this team that really screams every week. I haven't been impressed. Even the games that they've been close against Bama, Tennessee, I'm like, these teams are just fucking around with Texas A&M. They should be beating them. But it's just a gut feeling. I feel like this game's going to be close. I'm picking the Aggies.
They have one thing to look out for with the Aggies is they have the second most sacks in college football right now behind James Madison. They have 33.
That's crazy.
So I mean, they can make a quarterback's life hell. Yeah, I don't know. I mean,
they're the 30th ranked.
Winning would be a lot more fun for college football, but
there's going to be an upset this week. If I have to pick it, it's this one. You know, that's what I'm at. And I guess Oklahoma State, Oklahoma would be too. But
yeah, I mean, I'll go with Ole Miss just because I mean, like I think Jackson Dart is a talented enough quarterback. And it's kind of like the kind of thing you talk about. It's like you just got to pick. You know, coming down to it, you got to pick the quarterback that's better. So I'll go with Ole Miss just off that, but it won't be. I mean, it's going to be close.
Oh yeah,
2.5-point favorites at home. I mean, so that's essentially saying that if it was neutral field, you know, it's even.
Yeah,
which is kind of crazy because for a top 10 team.
Yeah, but that's because that's what that's his MO at this point. Is these games Ole Miss tends to play down to their competition when you think that they should run over a team, especially a week before the big game. There's been Bama games and big games in the past couple of years where it's like, oh man, Ole Miss, like they're coming in, it's going to be a top 10, top 5 matchup, and then they slip up somewhere stupid.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm really worried about. I hope they lock in because I want to see 8-1, number 8 Ole Miss at number 2 Georgia next week. Like would be amazing. I don't know. There's just something.
Georgia will be back at 1 after Ohio State loses to Rutgers. No, I don't.
Next week, Mo, before we get to Penn State, because Penn State plays at home against Michigan, we got that game, Tennessee, Missouri, USC, Oregon, Utah, Washington, and Ole Miss, Georgia. It's a hell of a week. We're in November. I mean, it's obviously like this is the best time for college football. This is when the games, the nitty gritty, we find out who's real, who's not. Obviously, on part of my take, they called the NFL Sunday Separation Sunday this week. This is Separation Saturday too. I feel like coming up here, like we're gonna find out a lot. Like these teams, all these top 12 games, like we're gonna learn a lot the next 2 weeks. Obviously, like we're gonna know exactly really what the field's gonna look like and what team. Like a lot of these teams are gonna get pressed. Whether it's Michigan next week or Georgia finally getting these big matchups. Alabama and LSU, we've been waiting for this one to see the SEC West. Like there's a lot that we've been waiting for in October that we're finally getting to here. So I'm really excited about it. But before we go, Penn State at Maryland, our last team in the top 12. Penn State, I believe they're 10-point favorites.
It's down to 8.5.
The season series is the all-time series is like 41-2-2 or 42-2-2, I think or something like that.
Let me look.
It's been pretty bad.
I've heard people on Twitter call it State College South.
Well,
College Park, Maryland. I've heard them call it State College South.
How far away is it? Because it can't be that far. They can't be too far apart.
That's a good question. I'm looking up the
State College directions. College Park, Maryland. State College, Pennsylvania, and College Park, Maryland. Gotta love it.
Yeah, you're right. It's 42-3-1. Penn State leads the series.
It's only a 3.5 hour drive.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
It's in the same way that Ohio State fans kind of own Penn State and are like, it's not a rivalry. That's the way Penn State fans react to it about Maryland. It's like, it's not a rivalry. And it's not. It's even more lopsided than Penn State and Ohio State.
Yeah. There are 5 teams who haven't been ranked in the college football playoff rankings yet. Maryland and Rutgers are 2 of those teams. It's been 10 years.
It's tough. And, tough for Maryland this year. Started out 5-0 and have dropped the last 3.
Yeah.
So that's the thing to look out for this game. Are they gonna stop the skid against Penn State?
Well, and just what is Penn State offense just going to be anemic and let this Maryland team hang around because they've been anemic in a lot of games.
Yeah, I mean, last week, like the offense didn't do a crazy amount last week against Indiana. Obviously,
last week was a letdown though. Like it was just them like
coming off of Ohio State,
off the Ohio State game with the emotion and everything. That it was just they didn't and Indiana like. Who had already played Ohio State and Michigan, wanting to have a chance to beat one of these teams.
Yeah, and it was also, it was like 2 massive, just like busted plays that put them up.
The defense, who knows? Like it was absurd to see those first
Penn
two
State
touchdowns.
defense is actually like shows up to like the level we know that they can be. They're gonna make Talia's life a living hell.
Yeah,
which they did last year. I mean, they last year was 30-0. Penn State beat Maryland. I want to say, yeah. So I don't know.
I got the Lions. I think they win. Hosting Michigan next week, that will be electric. And like I said before the season started, I think Penn State beats Michigan, Ohio State beats Penn State, Michigan beats Ohio State, and then what did you say the tiebreaker was the other day? It's record or combined.
It's record of opponents in the Big Ten West.
Strength of record, or is it winning percentage, or is it
winning percentage of Big Ten West teams that they played? So right now it's if it breaks that Penn State beats Michigan, Michigan beats Ohio State, the way it's gonna break as of like right now is Ohio State because
Northwestern could keep winning though
because of Wisconsin.
I know, but
the only good. Or the other only good Big Ten West team besides Iowa, and Iowa's 6-2.
Northwestern's 4-4 now, Mo. They have Iowa next week, or Iowa this week at Wrigley Field in a game that is.
Are you going?
No, I'm going to Medieval Times.
Yeah, I didn't know what time that game is at. Though.
I think that game is
it's the lowest over-under in college football history. Jacob.
I wanted to get the over-under. Where is it?
22.5, I thought.
What time is this game at?
They're not even televising it.
It's not even on. Where is it? I can't find it. Oh, yeah. 2:30. Yeah. 30.5.
30? Oh, okay. I thought it was like 22.
30.5. That means they're saying this game is going to be 16-15, potentially. 17-14. That's what we're expecting. And that's what I would say, too. But, yeah. So this Northwestern team right now, their losses, I'm just trying to get to the standings because I was surprised looking at this the other day. They're 2-3 in conference play, and that Big Ten West is just a fucking mess. I mean, Minnesota 3-2, Iowa 3-2, Wisconsin 3-2, Nebraska 3-2, Northwestern 2-3, and a lot of these teams all play each other in the next couple weeks.
I love it.
I can't wait till next year when it's just the best
no divisions.
Teams. Oh my gosh, the Penn State Oregon Big Ten championship next year is going to be amazing.
That would be interesting. Nick's back again.
Can he come back again?
I don't think so.
Nick's just keeps finding eligibility. He's like a 30-year-old quarterback for Oregon.
Yeah. One last thing about Maryland, Penn State. Maryland hasn't won at home since 1961.
That's a long time.
Yeah.
That's 62 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They have a win in 2020, that weird COVID year.
Yeah.
That was the last time they won. It was 35.
That doesn't count.
Last two games, 31-14 Penn State, 30-0 Penn State. So
the COVID year doesn't count for college football in my brain.
I don't think the COVID year should count. The only thing that should count is Devontae Smith won the Heisman because good for him, but everything else doesn't count.
Nothing else. Especially in the Big Ten when they didn't even want to play football, and then Donald Trump was like, "Y'all are playing football."
Yeah, they didn't play until like the third week of October. And then that's why my hatred for Michael Penix began.
I can see us. I can see you right now. It's emblazoned in my brain how
I think that was when you guys thought I threw my phone against the wall. It was just a pillow. It was just. I was so fucking mad.
But he didn't score. I don't understand.
They did out of bounds.
I don't understand. They just wanted to get. Listen, little did we know that. How did you think 4 years later we'd be talking about Michael Penix Jr., Heisman candidate?
No, I didn't.
He was electric that game too.
He wasn't really electric that game. That was a cursed Penn State season from the get-go. You wake me up at 8 a.m. and he's like, "Hey, Journey Brown can't play football anymore." I'm like, "What?" Because he had a heart condition.
Yeah.
He ran for 1,000 yards last year.
Yeah.
Same day, Mike Parsons is like, "I'm opting out." I'm like, "Are you fucking kidding me right now?"
Yeah, it wasn't great.
No, that was terrible.
All right. That's it. Enjoy week 10. Have a good one, folks.
Yeah.
Go watch. We got some go-ahead action in like 1 second.
Yeah, should be starting. Hey,